Hi there, I'm Heather from Upcycled Vintage Art, and this is my live at lunch painting time. I'm just hooking up, making sure everything's working properly here. Today I am having a little bit of a break between fandoms. I'm just gonna click back to the software so I can see what I'm doing. So I think I'm finished my Ewoks Millennium Falcon painting, and I'm working on some Ents and some other bigger pieces, but I feel like I need a little, as my sister calls it, a palette cleanser in between things, just to kind of just to mix things up a little bit and to keep the creative muscles going. So anyway, I'm working on a last unicorn piece today. So I'm going to move myself out of the way here. You can see in the background the picture that I'm going to be working on. I don't usually delve right in or do altered paintings during these live ones, but it's the vibe I'm feeling today, so I'm just going to go with it. So I am going to protect my keyboard with some plastic so I don't splash anything on it, and yeah, I'm just going to get some paint on here. And so this is the painting I'm working on. It's kind of a large one. It still has the frame on it and everything. I'm just going to lift it, move it around so you can kind of see it's on my desk, and it's a rather large piece. So anyway, it has a little cottage here, and when I saw it, I love the kind of soft background there, and I just felt like it needed a last unicorn vibe. Like it felt like it would work really well, and I love the plants, so I'm gonna add a little bit of the motif into the shrubbery and stuff that's already here. So anyway, that's my plan. I'm just going to get some paint on my my palette. I'll put that there while I'm getting set up. So, and I have my canvas next to me ready to brush off my brush. This is the one that I used when I painted the large painting, They Belong to Me, with 45 unicorns hidden in the waves. So anyway, this is my cast off canvas from that's been sitting with my other ones, so it feels appropriate to use that for this one and continue on in the process. So I think, yeah, my paint is all dried, so I'm gonna just load it up a bit. So I'm going to be working in the same tones that are here. We've got, they're kind of soft purpley browns and whites and soft gray blues. So I've got to have to be subtle with the tones that I use. I know my reference is very blue, but I'm not going to be painting in those colors. Here we go. So getting out my two best friends. Got phthalo blue and burnt umber. Where's my burnt umber? There they are. These two make the best blacks and browns and grays, and they just work very, very nicely together. So that's why I call them best friends. All right, make sure everything is still working over there. I think so. Yeah. So I'm working from home, and my husband works from home. My daughter's home studying today, so you're going to hear noises in the background that are not me. Let me see, did I got the light on? It feels a little darker. I've got the curtain kind of closed on the side here, so it's all kind of artificial light at the moment. I'm just testing out the color that I've got here to kind of get rid of this. I want to first get rid of this cottage. And I may have grabbed the right color right off the bat, which is very nice. So I'm just getting rid of the fence posts and this little pink cottage. As cute as it is, it's not what I want. So I'm using phthalo blue, burnt umber, and a dioxazine violet. I think that's the color. That's another wonderful color for making interesting browns and dark colors. That has a little bit more zing to it. So I am not attempting to match it here. I'm actually trying to just get a darker tone down. I'm trying to match what's in behind to give myself something to work on. There we go. And lighten it up a little bit. Make sure you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just adding a little bit of texture to it just to soften it a bit. It needs to be a little bit more blue. The tiniest bit more blue, not that much. Too much. Still too much. I'm always amazed at those, you've probably seen the videos where someone just sits and they put like a little canvas and they just paint and perfectly match it to the scene around them, like the street outside or whatever. And it looks, you can't tell where the edge of the canvas is and where the real life landscape is. That's an incredible skill, and it takes a lot of just understanding color and what makes them up. So you notice how dark this is, it's dried darker. Sometimes paint, it looks one way when it's wet, and then when it dries it can change a bit. I think this purple and the brown in particular can do that. So sometimes I go darker and then I can tint it back with the white as we go. So I think this is actually good enough for now, because I'm going to add the unicorn in and I want to have a dark background, so it's got a bit more to work on, or it's going to be behind it anyway. So I don't know, it makes me a little bit sad getting adding a different color to this one. Quite liked the blue, and all, every brush stroke was, you know, a lot of unicorns and King Haggard's castle in there. So now I know the Last Unicorn is quite a niche fandom, so not everybody is familiar with it, but it was a show that I grew up watching, a movie I watched a lot when I was little. Oops. And it was very popular. It was from the early 80s. It was very popular then. You know, My Little Pony era. And but it was like a step up from there. Like, it felt scarier and more dramatic and all that. Watching as an adult, there's a lot of weird bits in it. But as a girl growing up in the 80s, and a lot of the action fantasy shows all like were mainly about guys, so I quite liked it because it was one of the only ones that kind of featured a female heroine, more than one in the story, and it was kind of fun. But it was what made me fall in love with unicorns more than My Little Pony did, because it felt like it was real, and the whole idea that you could only see them if you really believed in them was kind of cool. We lived in an area where there was farms around us, and we had horses near us. We'd drive by them every now and then we'd always be looking out for a white mare, hoping to see a unicorn. So I am going with the so this movie that came out, it was animated, and it was very unique style, and you might think, oh, the style seems really familiar, and that's because the animators, several of them went on to form Studio Ghibli. So if you're a fan of Studio Ghibli, you might like to watch this, and kind of you'll be able to see moments in there that kind of remind you of their style of work. So I'm just using the light purple just to kind of get things where I want them to be. She's just kind of standing there, like her tail is kind of not really going anywhere. I just want to take a little peek at my other reference to see, because basically when she's standing, her tail is just very elegantly hanging down, but I don't really want it where it is right now. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it down and out a bit. It's probably a little hard for you to see such light colored. Why don't I bring this in closer? Is that a bit better? Hopefully that'll be all right. There we go. So anyway, Studio Ghibli, and the story by Peter Beagle, The Last Unicorn. It's quite lovely, and when you watch, if you've read the book and then go to watch the movie, you realize it. I mean, obviously they leave so much out whenever you watch. Yeah, they make a book into a movie. But I actually appreciated the movie more reading the book as an adult. I'd never read it when I was a kid. I didn't even know there was a book. So I read that recently and quite enjoyed it. And yeah, so the fact that the unicorns have kind of unusual proportions is because they're following the description given to them in Peter Beagle's story and his description of the unicorns. So I quite like that. It's that it's very very true to his story. So they have kind of bodies that are kind of like deer, and their features are more exaggerated. They are not horses, and I mean, the main unicorn, she gets very offended if anyone assumes that she's a horse. So I think that's kind of, I always used to think, why don't they look like a bit more realistic? But then when I read the book and realized, oh, they do. That's how they're meant to look. So I am adjusting this. This is as I'm going. I'm adjusting to get the height and the length of the legs right and the different things right before I do any shading. I'm going to get this silhouette the way I want it. Because I'm just measuring to her legs come up to where her chin is. So her legs don't really go up to where her chin is. If I'm measuring, the height of her legs is the same height up to where the bottom of her chin will be. So I'm just wanting to get things where they're meant to be before I get too far into it. And I know she doesn't have one giant leg here in the front, but what I'm doing is I'm shifting it. Because her leg has like a nice soft angle here. And as you can see, the lovely matching job I did doesn't really matter because I keep adding layers on, so at some point I'll blend it in a bit more. Just making sure everything is going on okay here. I am just going to switch to a larger brush here for a minute because I'm realizing what's happening is I'm struggling to get the right shape because I'm working with a tiny brush and doing like little tiny movements. It's just not, I accidentally hit the wrong brush. There we go. kind of feeling I want to shift the whole thing up a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do is I am going to scrub this off before it's fully dried. Shift the whole thing up a bit. I think a big part of the reason why I like paint is that it's forgiving, or I can just start again if I'm not happy with how something's looking. So what I'm wanting, I'm just going to soften these legs back. It's like I haven't done anything at all. So let's just have a little think about this again. So we have this lovely leg here and a lovely leg there coming up, and I'm going to bring everything up a lot higher, much higher. Whoops. I'm aware that these legs are very wide, but I am going to pull them back in from the color I'm blending in from the outside. So I'm just getting the angles right here, and then I will adjust and get them where I want them. So if you're just signing on now, I'm working on a new upcycled painting, and this is just the very start of it, where it's very rough, and I'm just kind of figuring out where I want things to be on the page. I'm adding in the last unicorn into this picture, and I'm at that the very start of it, when you kind of just adding bits in and figuring out the shading and the coloring and how I'm wanting it to look before I start to make it look right. So in case you're like, oh, this looks bad, a bit worried how it's going to turn out. I feel the same way every time I paint something, so I'm not worried I'm not sure how I'm going to pull this out, but yeah, every picture starts this way, looking like a mess. Anyway, it's just me doing this. My daughter's home studying and my husband is working, so there's others coming in and out, but just me doing this. So if you have any questions and you've sent them in the text, I won't really see them because this is like you're hanging out with me while I'm on my lunch break, or sorry, not lunch, like my while I'm working away. And it's like if you're kind of walking by and taking a peek over my shoulder. That's kind of that's what I'm treating this like. So feel free to stay or go, check back and later see how it's coming along. But yeah, this lunchtime painting session is kind of good for me because it makes me stop whatever I'm doing and just have a quick sit down and paint and not yeah, it's actually been very helpful doing this to take a little time to even work on something completely different than my commissions or other things, just to keep the paintbrush moving. Because sometimes with commissions I have to spend a fair bit of time researching or other things, and it can be a little bit of, even though it looks like I'm painting all the time, sometimes I'm just sharing things that I've painted a little while ago. I don't actually get to paint all the time, so it's nice to sit down and force myself to, especially when it feels busy or it doesn't feel like I've got the time to do it. It's nice taking a moment to sit down and paint something new and yeah, feels kind of like recharging my batteries. When I went to school, we talked about this, that it's one of the hardest things when you start a project, to keep that excitement the whole way through, like the joy of making, and the because you can tell when you're not enjoying doing something, it does show. When you're like with painting, it's such a kind of, I always used to react to people talking about the flaky artist or whatever, but it is, you put a lot of yourself into things, and your emotions and your feelings do come through whatever you're painting. So if you're enjoying it, usually it turns out better. And if you're not enjoying it, it doesn't. So, but also if things are difficult, that feeling can come across in your work and stuff. So, and challenging, like, so I've been finding the ones I've been working on recently have been very challenging, and it's hard to get back up when you feel like, oh, have I captured that the way I wanted to, or if something's taken a lot longer, it feel tiring. So it's nice to have a little break from that, and to paint something different, just to kind of and then I go back to whatever I'm working on a bit refreshed and can see it with different eyes and actually enjoy it again, and bring times like this into the next thing I'm painting. So it's but it is difficult to kind of keep that that spark in what you're working on when your feelings don't line up. Okay, so I can see that the background is getting quite dark, but I'm going to leave that and blend that in once I've got the unicorn a bit more established. So I'm getting happier with her front legs. They're looking more the shape that I'm wanting, and I just need to cut out a bit of, not really cutting out her leg, but the shape that I want here. Okay. This back leg needs to be a bit smaller too. So I'm aware that the colors that I'm choosing when I'm cutting it in from the background, I call it cutting it in. I don't know why I've called it that, but when I'm reducing the shape from the outside of the picture versus the inside, or inside the shape, like coming in with the color, I'm not really worrying about it being a perfect match at this point, because right now the most important thing is getting this shape down, the correct shape down. So I will fix the background color later. Right now all I'm looking at is shape, and I will fix all the colors later. I just want to get things in the right place before I adjust the colors. And it's the challenging thing about working on something that is already very stylized. My natural thing would be to make it look like a horse or more realistic, but this is kind of a homage to The Last Unicorn. I want to have it look a little bit like the style. Now I need to slim down these legs to an unrealistically skinny proportion, because that unnatural proportion is exactly how they're described in the book. So and I can tell that at this point I'm getting everything's almost in the right place, and I'm going to need to switch to a smaller brush, because this brush is starting to, I don't have as much control over it, and I can tell times that I'm making mistakes, like I end up adding something that's too wide, and that's just because the brush is too wide. So I have a friend who we've painted together a couple of times, and just give her a few little tips. But I was looking at one of her new painting was really lovely, and she wanted to put it in a frame that she had something in that she'd painted years and years ago. And just seeing that, how with practice, like how much she improved, was really lovely. But her first one, it wasn't bad. I was saying to her, like, the problem she had with it was, I could tell by the brush strokes that the paintbrush she was using was too big, and she was persisting, and it's just because it's just like that's the paintbrush she had, but for what she was doing, the paintbrush was too big, and it makes such a difference just having the right size brush or the right kind of paint. If you're struggling with your medium or your materials, it does come out in your work. So anyway, smaller brush. So I'm just gonna I will be switching over to a smaller brush very soon. But what I want to do is get the shape of the neck. That's too wide. I want to get some of these shapes down first before I switch to small brush and tighten everything up and introduce the correct colors. It's interesting, this such weird colors in this picture. These mauvey browny kind of 80s tones that were so popular. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to adjust the background a little bit, the places where I've painted, and I can see it's not the right color because as I'm adding in highlights, I want it to be against the correct color. So I'm just going to cut in here a little bit, bring that background color back in nice and close, try and match a little bit. I am going to soften this because it's a bit distracting right next to her hair. Her hair is going to be white, but I feel like I just want this to be a little bit softer. That part of the painting was a bit too, yeah, it wasn't quite right. All right, so let's just bring it in, just matching some of this background texture over top of these different colors that we've got. So there is paint underneath this already, which is kind of nice because I can work with that. So I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can use the texture that the original artist had on there and just catch their brush strokes and the texture of the paint. Oop, I've got too much of my brush. Let's see how this is. So I'm aware that there was a cottage underneath there, so I don't want to catch too much of that shape. We don't want it to look like she's standing in front of a cottage. But just lightening this is going to help. So this isn't the exact color yet, but every little bit will help get it closer to the depth of color that's in here. This kind of weird yellowy color, yellowy browny murky color. Okay. More brown, less purple. There. So you might notice I'm adding it everywhere each time. It's because just trying to give it a kind of a uniform feel to it. All right. I'm going to grab a bigger brush. Just gently dry brush on top of this just to catch that texture. And I'm going to go right over top of the unicorn a little bit too, just to blend her into the picture. Because now that I know where she is in her shape, I can bring those highlights out. Because she is a white unicorn, right? She's not a purple unicorn. But I just wanted to get her in there where she's meant to be. Oops, that's too much. such a murky color. Let's get that off my brush. So let me make sure everything's working. So it's funny, I've been working for so long, it feels like I haven't got very far, but I actually have. Because I've worked it all out where everything's gonna go, and yeah. So just want to make sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. Actually, I need that purple color right here. Wouldn't think that her unicorn horn would be purple, but that's the color we're working on, so purple will be the darkest color. This purpley browny weird color that I'm working on. So I like to work a style called, I'm pretty sure it's called chiaroscuro. It's where you work from dark to light. So I will slowly build up the tones that I want. I'm just adding a few highlights. And again, this is not, I'm not even using white yet. I'm just kind of using that murky color tinted a tiny little bit lighter, just to get everything where I want it to go. I feel like I need to get a smaller brush again, but we'll see how we go. You may have noticed that instead of working from her legs up, I've switched to going from her head down. the tail probably looks a bit strange for the games. This is the style. They had long narrow tails, and at the end it was like a tuft. It's a bit of a different look compared to horses. Too much. So if you're just signing on, I'm adding the last unicorn into this old painting, doing a bit of a palette cleanser in between projects, just painting something new. And because I'm right in the middle of working on a lot of fantasy art inspired by Lord of the Rings and sci-fi art inspired by Ewoks and the planet Endor. And this is kind of my practice that I break it up and I just try and paint something completely different in the middle, because it helps me keep my paintings a bit fresher, and stepping away and doing something different is just really helpful. So anyway, so I'm painting and I can't really see if there's any comments or anything. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a note, and I'll get back to you after.
usually when it's just me painting, I put on a movie, and I would likely put on The Last Unicorn right now while I'm painting this, because it's just nice to listen to. It helps me feel in the mood of what I'm painting, and also helps me mark the passing of time. So if I apologize, I'm not properly Bob Rossing this and talking the whole way through, but this is my painting at lunch, and you're watching over my shoulder, and when it's just me, I am often very quiet when I'm painting, because I'm thinking the whole way through about the color, the shapes. My mind was always on the trying to be constructive and not beat myself down. In school, that was one of the things that they taught us, was how to changing your thoughts from that looks bad to that's not quite the right color, that color is too warm or too cool or too sharp, or it needs to be softer. The shapes are too fat, too thin, too sharp, too smooth. Like just thinking in constructive words, so that way, rather than bad and good, it's always going to be a word that helps me think, how can I make it better? So there are areas here that I'm not sure how to handle yet. But what you probably wonder, I do float around the page, go from one thing to the next. That's basically the way my brain works, is I basically go from one thing that doesn't look right to the next thing that doesn't look right. And I just see a painting as problems and solutions. So if I look and I'm like, I know how to fix that little bit, I will fix that bit next. And then once I've done that, the next problem area stands out to me, and I move on and I fix that one. So it's and I just keep going until I don't notice any more mistakes, which doesn't mean that there aren't more mistakes, but sometimes it's like, this is as good as I can get it. Like, this is as in my ability at this point in time, this is as good as it's going to be. So I'm actually getting really happy with the shape of this. It's getting closer and closer, so I'm going to start adding more lighter colors in to have her standing out from the background. But I just want everything to be right first, because it's difficult to fix it once you've rendered everything. Like, when I mean render, is like all the shading and texture and everything is like a lot really detailed. So it's really important to get everything where it's meant to be before I get to that stage, because it's a lot harder to come back when you've fully drawn something and you realize, oh, that eyeball should be half an inch up. So I want to get to those problems before we get that far into it. So I'm just going to I want to kind of establish where her hair is before I start properly adding some more highlights into it. Just needs a little bit. She's got a cute curl that comes out here, and her hair up here. She's got a bit in the front too. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because there's a couple places I want to just slim down areas before I get too far with the highlights. that this is a very weird color. So their feet are unusual in that they've got cloven hooves. They're a bit weird. They're not beautiful. Little. I mean, they are okay. They're not ugly hooves, but they're a bit odd. They're not horses' hooves. That's better. I just wanted to slim down her leg there, right at the bottom. And again, these are really exaggerated features because I'm illustrating it with a bit of a nod to the original animation style by Studio Ghibli. Oh, not Studio Ghibli. The animators went on to form Studio Ghibli, but I'm kind of using their style, and they very much kept to Peter Beagle's description of the unicorns in his book, The Last Unicorn. So I'm resisting the urge to make her look too horse-like. So this is part of what I wanted to do, is to knock back this color, because this whole part of her here is in the shadow a little bit, including her legs. I need a bigger brush. So, aware I've been doing this for an hour. So usually you see me painting in time lapse if you watch my reels on socials. It takes me a lot longer than 30 seconds to paint, and this is such a tiny little item on the page, and it's you think, oh, that'd be quick, but it's lots of little adjustments, and yeah, it's not a quick process. So I've made her neck a little too wide again, so I'm just going to pull it back. I want her neck to be about there. Her shoulder finishes there. So Okay. Let me get a little tiny bit of a warmer color. Just because I want to, some things I find distracting. So remember I was saying like I go from one thing that I fix to the next. So something I would like to fix is where she's standing. I just want to make it a little easier for myself to see where her legs are ending and where the background is. So there's a few of us home today, and I can hear my husband is coming down to make lunch in a moment. There, that's better. I feel like I can see where the feet, where her feet or her hooves are resting on the ground there now. So that feels a bit better. Just gonna say a quick hi. Hi, I'm just doing a live video. You can make lunch and stuff, it's fine. I've told them that you've come down. So. Okay, so just taking a little step back to look at what I've got here. So I feel like what I would like to do is I'm going to make her head, just the underneath of her chin, a little smaller because they do have kind of abnormally small heads. And I want to, while her hair does look glamorous, I would like, it's just got a telltale kind of curve in it that I would just like to get back, and that it would be right there. So I'm going to remove that, scrape it off before it really dries. There we go. And it isn't quite as long as all that, so I'm going to pull it back in a little bit here too. So I'm gonna, as fun as it is, they're kind of getting carried away with me. That's better already. And it's not as long as this. So some of these details are what helps her look taller and more, that kind of look. So. They also have more deer-like ears than horse-like ears. That's another little detail that I like to pay attention to, or that I learned when I was doing other painting. Soften that back here just a little bit. So the reason I wipe my brush off is sometimes I just end up with a bit too much paint on and I don't want to just swish it in the bucket. Partly it's because I don't want to rinse all this paint down the drain. That's not good for the environment. But also if I just dip my paint in the brush in the bucket, I don't have any sense of how much or how little of the color is left in the brush. So it kind of lets me see what's going on and how much paint is on there, how thick the paint is, so I can know how it's going to handle when it gets on the actual canvas. So as I mentioned earlier, I like to work from dark to light in kind of a chiaroscuro style. I learned how to do that when I was learning how to do oil painting, and it kind of stuck with me. I just liked the technique. I think it works. My brain thinks like that now. So when I work in watercolor, it's quite different because you've got to work from light to dark. And I just don't think that way with paint. So I haven't got any pure white on this yet. It's all just very, very soft tints of white, which there isn't really much pure white in this actual painting either. So when I get to that point, it will stand out, and she will have that kind of glowing look to her. But it's gonna be very subtle. Yeah. I always loved this unicorn's hair, the style of it. I think, and looking back, it's like a very 80s glamorous hair style. snowing and raining. Just what I need before I go pick up my son from school. So with every pass of color, I'm able to adjust and get it to where I want it to be. So, can't work on this for too much longer because I will need to go get my son from school. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to finish it all in one go. But I will finish it soon. I might spend another 10 minutes. And then it would be good for me to also have a break from it, just to kind of come back to it with fresh eyes and see if there's anything I'm missing as I'm working on it. This is a really enjoyable stage of the process. This is much less stressful now. Just because I feel like things are where I want them to be, so I can just enjoy adding in the highlights, and it's all tiny adjustments just to get it to finish it off. So again, it's just me here doing this. I mean, my husband's having lunch, my daughter's studying, but I can't paint at the same time as watching comments and all that stuff. So I appreciate it if you've asked me a question or, you know, said hi or whatever. I'm sorry if I haven't replied or that I have not replied. I can't do both at once. I figure you're here because you'd like to see the painting, not because you want me to reply to comments quickly. But if there's something that you're wondering about, just drop me a note afterwards, and I'll get back to you when I have a minute. And like if you are interested in like the original when it's finished, drop me a note. I have an art drop coming up in March, and I give early access to my originals to anyone who's on my newsletter. I have like a page on my website where I share a lot of the vintage paintings I've collected and my plans for them. So you can have a peek at what's coming up. But if you ever see me working on something, you're like, oh, I love that, just drop me a note, because I often they're collected before my art drop, just by people who just say, hey, love that, keep me in mind, please. And I just send you a message ahead of my art drop and say it's available. Here's some photos. Here's how much it is. Yep. So anyway, don't be shy, because usually they go to whoever's just dropped me a note and asked about them. So yeah. This one in particular, somebody has saw it on my website and said, oh, I love that wintry one for the last unicorn. And so I'm gonna let them have a first option to it. But let me know anyway if you're interested, because you know sometimes when they're done, someone might change their mind or their circumstances change, and that's fine. So so there's still a chance that it will be available. And may do prints of this one too, likely will. So I wasn't actually expecting to spend this long on this, which is probably a bit silly of me, because these things just do take time. But what I would like to do is I would like to add these shrubberies and stuff, some of the motifs of the plants and stuff from the movie, because I like just kind of some of those retro kind of florals and leaves and all that. They're kind of cool, so I want to add that in as well. So I've got a fair bit more to do. Just going to do a little tiny bit more, and I'm going to wrap it up because I got quite a bit more I want to do on this. And I'm aware I don't have the time to do it all right now. And it'd be better for me to stop while I'm happy with it. I say as I add more on. So I can come back to it. It'll be a bit drier and I can add some more highlights in and finish it all off properly. Haven't quite got the hair how I want it, so it's gonna kind of bug me. So I just want to have another go at this. That's already way better. It was just too much hair. Okay, the other thing that's bugging me is this ear. So I've gone shadowy with it, and it actually just needs to be light, like the ear in front of it. So I'm just going to remove that. Add her other ear. Behind. And even though my reference says it's taller than that one in front, I'm going to make it shorter because I just want it to be less distracting. Okay. This area where her hair is a little bit wet, so I'm going to need to I have a feeling I need to wait for it to dry a bit more before I can get it just right. Or just thicker paint. Maybe that's all it needed. say I was going to stop. So I am going to stop. That was a very productive painting session, and I'm really happy with this, and I'm going to be working a bit more in the background. Yeah, very happy with how this is coming along, and as you can see, my paintbrush has a mind of its own, and it is not finished, so yeah, I need to stop and have a break and then come back to this with fresh eyes and decide what else it needs to finish it up. I am going to be working a little bit on the background to give it that kind of last unicorn feel, but maybe I'll work on this a bit more on Friday on my next live painting session to continue on together with it. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for joining in with me. Yeah, that's it. Okay. All right. Bye.